So where are we at?
This is the template cut for the worktop. And
that's good.
It's pretty much more or less forming out.
If you're new to this channel, we're James and Sarah, also known as The Whole World or Nothing.
We used to be full-time backpackers, exploring the world and writing about our travels on our blog.
And then the world changed.
We got repatriated from Peru and found ourselves back in the UK at a loose end. So we decided to do a van conversion.
Make sure you hit subscribe now so you can join us in this series as we share the highs and many lows of converting an old Mercedes Sprinter panel van into our dream home on wheels.
We know what we did wrong.
Yeah.
Well, it wasn't that we did it wrong, we just did it in a slightly different order to what we need to do it. So when we actually cut the worktop, then we'll get it right that time. But it's a good exercise to do anyway, because I mean, this isn't going to be wasted. We're going to put this on top to cover the solid oak worktop so it doesn't get damaged. But it's given us not forever, no. Until we're finished. But it's given us a good idea as to exactly how we're going to go about it, so we're confident now that we're going to get it right first time, which we have to, because, well, there's no second chances with that thing. So it's dark now, so we're not going to do that now. We're going to do that tomorrow.
I don't think it's a good thing to put your worktop in the dark.
Probably not. No. I think you can probably tell that we're absolutely knackered and in need of a beer, so see you tomorrow.
See ya.
Today's the day. How are you feeling?
Nervous.
Are you?
Yeah, because cutting the worktop.
Why?
Because it's one chance only, isn't it?
It is.
Like if it goes wrong, you know, it's quite an expensive bit of wood.
It's only a 150 quid mistake.
There's an old builder's adage that says measure twice and cut once. We took that to the extreme here and even decided to cut it a little long just to make sure the new blade wood installed was up to the job. The strip you can see us cutting off the end is because the size that the worktop came in was about 10mm too deep, which we'd factored into our plans to allow us to cut a backsplash from the same length of wood.
Alright, bring it in. This is just the first fit, people. We've still got to sort that angle in the corner.
And obviously we need to cut quite a lot off the end because we cut it long.
Being overcautious.
Pretty nice. So something like that. What do you reckon?
That's wicked. So this is the edge that we've got to now cut at a slight angle because the back length is a few mil longer than the front length. So it's not by much, but it means that it doesn't sit flush with the wall if we don't get this angle right. Alright, so we've just cut the backsplash with the miter saw and it's given a really nice edge, hasn't it?
It has, yeah. Beautiful. It feels like it's polished actually. It's weird.
It does. Happy with that, aren't we?
Rags used for oiling must be laid out flat to dry or destroyed, otherwise they may catch fire due to spontaneous combustion.
What, they just set on fire by themselves?
That's what spontaneous combustion means. So, how do you destroy it though? What, like,
put it in bin.
Where it could spontaneously combust. I think maybe we should set them alight.
So we have control over the combustion.
Exactly. Right, I just watched a little YouTube video on how to do this, and it seems relatively easy. I think you just pour a fair amount on for the first coating.
Okay. Do
it all quite liberally, and then you wait a few minutes and then you wipe it off.
Right.
Okay, so I'm going to try it on a little bit first.
Okay.
We chose to use Danish oil to finish the worktop because it's supposed to be hard wearing, largely water resistant and provide a nice natural looking finish.
Oh yeah, it looks really nice. You can see the difference at the side of the other one.
Yeah, it brings out the grain, it's a lovely colour. I think this is going to look pretty cool.
fixing our worktop into its final position. How do you feel about that?
Quite excited, a little bit nervous, and just wanting to get it done really.
Do you want to explain about those brackets?
These brackets are what you use to fix a solid wood worktop apparently, and the reason why is that solid wood, unlike MDF, can expand and contract when it gets hot or humid or cold. So these brackets have got slots, as you can see, in the bit that actually goes into the worktop, meaning that if the worktop does expand, it's not going to kind of rip the screw out. It will actually just move along that slot. So you do it, rather than doing it with the grain, I think it expands outward across the grain, if that makes sense. So you do it in the same direction across the grain, that's the one that you use, and then that allows it to kind of slide and means that it won't bust up your worktop. Something like that.
Good explanation.
Thank you.
We secured it on using a couple of brackets at each end and stuck the backsplash in place to the wall using Sikaflex, as it's not supposed to be secured to the worktop itself.
Alright, ladies and gentlemen, it is on. That's it. The worktop.
The final step was to run a clear bead of silicone around the edges to seal them up in case of spillages. Let's just quickly talk through what is in this kit from Truma for the Truma Ultrastore 10 litre water heater. This is a heater, so you've got the cold and hot water inlets here. You've got two cables, one's for 12 volt I think, and one's for 230 volt, because you can actually run it off gas or a 230 volt system, which we aren't doing. We are running it off gas. So we'll be using the gas inlet pipe, which is just here, and then this is the bit that we need to put out through the outside of the van, where the exhaust and the fumes and all that stuff goes out. What also comes in the kit is, like I say, the connection for the 230 volt. I don't know why, because obviously you pay for that and we're just not going to use it, so it seems a bit ridiculous, but anyway, we'll put that to one side. There's two bits of tube. I don't know what these are for yet. You've got a case that goes on the outside of this, and this is where the 12 volts will connect out of there and into our 12 volt supply. And then this black cable, I don't know what that is actually. I thought that was for, don't know what that is either, we'll figure that out.
Can I just say, sorry to interrupt,
what?
But this is an absolute masterclass. As you were. I'm really enjoying it.
They must both be to do with 1230, don't know. This is what is going to connect to our little control monitor, but I'm pretty sure that goes into there, so yeah, who knows what they're for. This goes on the back of that. We've got two cases, one's for that, one's for that, you know, like, so it just looks nice. Cold water connector, hot water connector. What's this, an isolator switch? We then have, I forgot what this is called. This is the cover that goes on the outside, a bag of screws and nuts and bolts and stuff and things like that. The warning sticker that's supposed to go on the inside, to put it on your wardrobe or something. Operating instructions, installation instructions, and the template. So yeah, it just seems really quite easy. We'll just put all that together and I'm sure it'll be fine. We're doing it in 2 stages, so we're not going to be connecting any of the gas today because we haven't got our gas yet. We're not going to be connecting the water today because we haven't got our water tanks yet. So it's not actually going to work today. We're just fixing it in place and putting the thing out through the van.
Great, so the past 3 minutes and 50 seconds have been a complete waste of my time, basically.
The first step was to cut through the vapour barrier to figure out where to position the cowl so it didn't go through the trim on the outside. We then stuck the template to the van, as this indicates exactly where to drill and cut the required holes.
Did you read the instructions though?
Well, yeah, and you have, haven't you?
I was listening to a podcast.
We've got on a roll in the van.
Oh god, I'm so nervous, don't know why. We then transferred the template to the outside, lining up the drill holes and cut the large hole for the cowl to go through with a jigsaw.
There was one more hole to drill for the condensation pipe, then we filed and painted the exposed metal with hammerite.
One of the other parts that we had to get to go with the heater that didn't come with it is a cowl extension. So this is the bit that will extend through the van. Because it's bigger than a 35mm gap between the outside of the van and where we're going to have the heater inside, it needs one of these, so that extends it by, I think it's 50mm, so that you can have a total of 85mm. That's right, isn't it? Between where the boiler is, where the heater is inside, and the outside of the vehicle. So we've just made this little frame now, which it says to do in the instructions, we think, although they're not the best. There's just like a lot of them and they're quite confusing. So that's going to sit around that, so that protrudes outside the van a little bit. That sits on the outside, whichever way it goes. And yeah, so we're just waiting for the hammerite paint to dry to make sure the hole that we've cut doesn't rust, and this glue to dry, and that's it.
And we're hoping that it will dry us before it gets dark, because it is getting dark already. It's really freezing cold, and we've got a hole inside of our van that we kind of need to get sealed up.
I've got a feeling we're going to be working into the dark. I'm just going to say that now.
Oh, joy.
So that the heater didn't go through the plastic trim on the outside, we've got to make a little shelf for it to sit on. So we're just knocking that up now from some 12mm ply, and we're just going to make some legs with that 34x34 batten there that Joe's got in his hand. So this is going on here, however in between that there's going to be the cowl extension. So normally these 4 screws would be the ones that screw through there and into there if you weren't putting an extension on, but because we're going to be using these that came with the cowl extension that will go through it to secure it all in place. But what we've got to do is screw these in, because apparently these make a thread in there, take them back out, and then we can put these in, because these don't make their own thread.
They don't have a head, so how are they going to...
They have a washer and a nut that goes on the end.
Why is it that everything that you get for a van,
I know.
the installation instructions are just terrible? I don't think we've had anything where they've been really clear.
No. The thing is, all the information's there, it's just written in like a not very clear way. So that should have made the threads. Take them out. Dark now, got the emergency light out. Your face.
You know no one can hear what you're saying because you've got a pencil in your mouth.
We just had a little problem with this, with the frame that we'd built, because it was catching on this little bit of rubber that is to extend this pipe, condensation pipe I think it is. So we just just notched a little bit out around it with the jigsaw so that it fits. So now all we've got to do is figure out how high we need the platform to be, which I think is going to be easier said than done.
We think we've got it with the test pieces of wood that we've put in. The back is a few mil higher than the front, but it's in place. The condensation pipe is in its place, so we think when we put the outside bit on and nip it together, it should pull it all nice and tight. Basically, the thing that's been causing some issue is because there's two beams here in the van metal framework, we couldn't shift it much further this way, and we couldn't, so it means that it's that part of the water heater is like on that metal beam there, which means that you can't physically push the heater anymore that way, even though there's like quite a big gap in between, if that makes sense, in between the outside of the van. So it's quite fiddly, quite faffy, but hopefully these legs are the right length. We'll cut the proper ones and give it a go.
Okay, so it's in on its shelf. You can see it just there, all in more or less the right position. Well, not more or less, in the right position. Just come around here and show you. That's its table just there. So we've just got to fix it in place. We're just putting an additional seal of Superflex around this extension cowl because it came off a little bit while we were fixing it in place, trying to get the hole right, so we just want to make sure that it's completely fixed on and airtight.
Once all the prep work was finished, it was just a case of assembling it all together and fixing everything in place.
So this, I don't know what this is, cowl cover?
Cowl plate, I think it's
Cowl
called.
plate. Has actually got really large holes, but the screws that are meant to go through it are pretty small. So what we did was just put this on top of it, because this has got smaller holes that go through that as well and into the van. And we did that so that we could get the holes in the van in the right place, if that makes sense, because otherwise we could be drilling anywhere in that larger hole and then it might not actually fit the way that we want it to. So we just did a tiny little pilot hole with this on, took them all off and then drilled through, because we could still see the mark that we'd made. It's turned out alright.
Yeah, I don't know why it tells you to do the opposite thing. Well, not the opposite thing, but it tells you to not put that plastic thing on yet in the instructions.
Yeah.
Even though the screws are going through the plastic thing and the metal thing. Hopefully our way works out okay. So we're just priming this up as well. Stick on the outside of the van.
No idea how much Suffice we're going to be putting on, so I'm just lathering this on.
Well, we don't want to go wild because we don't want it pushing out around the sides too much. But so there's one thing that I would say about this which is quite annoying. The template has you make all the holes bigger than they actually need to be. I'm sure there is a reason for that, maybe that we don't know about. Maybe it makes it easier if you have to kind of like adjust it or twist it, but we feel like it actually made it harder, didn't we?
Definitely.
Like, why not just cut it to the size that it needs to be?
Especially with a template, you'd think they could get that pretty accurate. Well, it is accurate, so...
Yeah, but then it says that it's 4 mil bigger.
Strange.
Why? Alright, we've got the cowl plate on now, secured with the 4 washers and bolts just on those 4 corners there, and we are just going to put the second to last final cover on. It is on. going to fix the final housing bit over the top. That's the bit that you can pull in and out, like when you're going to be using the water heater. So we'll put that on now, but we'll show you it all again in the morning. Not the whole process, I just mean what's under here. Christ. In the morning when we've actually got some daylight. Go on then, put it on.
Is it meant to click on?
Yeah.
There we go.
Que bueno. Do you like it?
I hate it right now. Absolutely despise it.
You're gonna like it when it's giving you hot water.
Yeah, I might like it in a few days.
So now we can actually see properly in the daylight. We're just running a final bead of Suffice around the edge here to make sure that the vent, or whatever it is completely watertight.
Whatever it is, I like the way that we don't even know what it is.
It's a vent cover, isn't it? But
Yeah.
the hole in the van is a vent. It doesn't actually say to do this, does it? But I think it's for the best.
It doesn't, and it should actually be watertight anyway, because the cover bit inside, the metal bit, is held on with Suffice,
Yeah, that's true.
and that should create a seal. But belt and braces, you know.
Absolutely, when it comes to water in the van.
Exactly. We've had enough of that.
And then here is the water heater inside the van, all fixed in on its shelf. The only thing that we've got left to do in terms of its placement is figure out how we are going to make our reflectix back into a vapour barrier, because obviously there's a great big hole in it right now, so we need to secure all that back up so that vapour isn't going up and into the cavity between this and the outside of the van. And then it's all going to be ready to hook up, well, it all is ready to hook up onto the gas and the 12 volt and the hot and cold water around that side. Pleased with that?
Sarah,
What?
I've got a question for you.
What?
Is hindsight a wonderful thing? So what are you doing?
Trying to sort this mess out here.
What's the mess?
Well, basically, we took this panel off, cut an hole in the reflectix, cut the hole through the van, stuck that on, blah blah blah, etc. It was great, and then realised actually that all needs to be sealed. Well, I didn't realise that, like I knew it needed to be sealed, but I just didn't realise it would have been so much easier to do it before we put this in, because now I can't actually get to what I need to do. It's a right faff.
So for anyone that's kind of unaware of how we've built our van, we've put a load of insulation in, and then we've put the reflectix to use as a vapour barrier to stop any water getting into the insulation. And every time that you pierce the vapour barrier or cut through it or do anything with the vapour barrier, you need to make sure that it's sealed up again, because
Otherwise there's no point in it being there.
exactly, it's only as strong as its weakest link. And right now, that gaping hole there is a pretty weak link, right? It's looking pretty decent though, it's looking alright.
Yeah, it's fine. It's just taking me a while. I'm just sealing it up and just sticking it back to the metal. I just can't reach that side very well. And here's how it ended up.
Well, that's it for this week, friends. We hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, then please let us know by hitting the thumbs up button down below. If you've not subscribed yet, then come on, get on board, it's free. And don't forget to hit that alarm bell so you get notified every time we post a new video. Next week, we'll be getting to work designing and building our bespoke wardrobes. Catch you then.